Welcome to the Pet Loss Companion. I'm Ken Dolan-Del Vecchio. I'm here with my friend and co-author, Nancy Saxton-Lopez. And this is a program that we do live on YouTube every Thursday from 6 o'clock to about 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And it is a program that is kind of the extension of the book that we wrote called The Pet Loss Companion, Healing Advice from Family Therapists Who Lead Pet Loss Groups, which, by the way, exciting news, is soon to be an audiobook, and it will be available on Apple Books and Spotify and other platforms. We'll keep you informed of that. This is a program where most of the time what we do is we read letters from people who have sent us the stories of their animal companions' life and death and how they're doing now in the aftermath of loss. And we invite you to send us your letters as well. You can reach me at kenddv@gmail.com. You can reach Nancy at nancysaxtonlopez@gmail.com. This information is in the description that accompanies the program. And if you do write to us, one or both of us will write back to you. We will also ask you when you write to us to please let us know if it's okay to share your story with our audience, because we find that, and this is why we do the program in large measure, we find that people feel a lot of solace and they feel very gratified by hearing other people's stories, because it really helps them helps people to not feel so alone in their grief. There are a number of ways that you can support us, and so you can look at the description and see that. We'd like you to know that the program is a friend of Dakin Humane Society, and Dakin Humane Society is in Springfield, Massachusetts, and they do all kinds of things in addition to being a shelter and adoption center that help those of us who have animal companions in our families. And one of the things that they do is they sponsor a pet loss support meeting once a month. It's on the second Tuesday of the month from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. It's on Zoom, and I facilitate it, and there is no cost to you to participate, and there's an RSVP link in the description in the program too. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to our program, because it makes the algorithm bring the program to people's attention when they're looking for pet loss support. And also, if you leave a comment, if you leave a heart or a thumbs up, or if you interact with the program in any way, it helps to let other people, it again affects the algorithm in a way that it helps other people to get the program when they're in need of support. So if you like the program, if you find it helpful, please do that. And then finally, we'd like you to know that we have an affiliate relationship with a company called Bereave, which makes really nice granite memorial plaques. And they're very beautiful, and they're heavy and well crafted.
Yes.
And if you purchase a Bereave plaque through the link on our description, then we will get a gift as part of your purchase price comes back to us as a gift of support for the program. So, Nancy, you want to get us started?
Yeah, we have two stories. I'm going to read Hanneke with her Wiley, and Ken's going to read Melissa with Peanut. I like what Melissa did, though. She sent a letter to Peanut.
Yeah.
Right? That's how she sent her story, right?
Yep.
So, okay. Dear Ken and Nancy, I'm writing to tell you about Wiley, our sweet pup, who died suddenly and unexpectedly on July 11th at only 7.5 years old. We are utterly heartbroken. For a bit of background, I was raised with cats and always loved them very much, and truthfully never felt very connected to my friends' dogs growing up. When I was in college, my mom shared that she was considering adopting a 1-year-old dog named Savannah. I wondered loudly if this was the right decision for her, as she only had cats for many, many years. It was the right decision. Savannah was amazing, and I loved her immediately. I spent time with her on school breaks and extended stays at home during transition periods in my early adulthood. I often say that Savannah was the dog that made me love all dogs. I am so thankful for her influence on my life. My husband did not spend much time with animals growing up, and certainly not with dogs. He met Savannah while we were dating, and I started planting the seed early for a dog later in our relationship. We lived overseas early in our marriage, and it was not very practical for an animal to join our family at that time. When we moved back to the U.S. in 2017, I started really laying the groundwork, and we began looking for dogs to adopt from our local shelter in early 2018. I still remember pulling up to the house where our Wiley was being fostered along with his litter mates. We met them when they were only 8 weeks old. His litter mates were so sweet and snuggly, laying all over us, while we watched their independent brother rove around in exploration with a hint of mischief. We were intrigued, and he was so exceptionally cute that we went home and emailed the foster family that night that we wanted to adopt Wiley. We brought him home 1 week later in February of 2018. Wiley was such a puppy. We've laughed so hard over the years and have even been able to do so amidst our current pain when we think of those early months. His little shark teeth and tiny crazy zoomies. We had no idea what we were getting ourselves into, but we knew we were committed to this pup, and we loved watching him grow. We lived in an apartment with a little side run and quickly knew we were going to need more space. All of our housing decisions since have centered around space for Wiley to run free. In that first year, we had plenty of hiccups, learning to walk on leash, tussling with peers at daycare, putting holes in more than a few of our pieces of clothing. But he grew and we grew, and our love for each other grew exponentially. We bought our first house a few months before our son was born in 2019 with a big yard for Wiley. Wiley was picky with other dogs. He loved some and really didn't care for others, and there was no real way to know which was which until they met each other. But he was so loving towards people, and more than anything just wanted to lick faces when he met someone new or saw them for a second, third, or 20th time. We took a dog and a baby class to prepare for the transition together and followed all the steps we learned to gently introduce Wiley to our son when he was born. Any concerns we had about possible jealousy or aggression quickly dissipated. Wiley was so loving and gentle and silly and sweet with our son from the beginning. When our son was 6 months old, the COVID lockdowns began. It was chaotic working from home with an infant, but it gave us the opportunity to spend so much more time with Wiley and with our son, who eventually returned to daycare 5 months later. COVID changed our work lives completely, and we shifted from being in the office 5 days a week and having a walker come during the day to be able to take long family walks together in the morning and have Wiley lounge around the house and snuggle at our feet during the day. What a gift. Wiley loved to be comfortable. I can't begin to count the number of times over the years when my husband and I called to each other from across the house to come and see the funny way Wiley was laying on our bed, on our couch, or with his legs up against the wall. We loved the way he would stand and look at us, waiting for us to move a pillow or magazine so he could join us on the couch. Every morning I'd race to make the bed because if I didn't get to it before Wiley, I'd never get the chance. He patiently, or maybe impatiently, wait, as I said, almost done, pup, and then jump up and stretch out. When I experienced my first of 2 early pregnancy losses in 2022, I felt so lost. I got Wiley's leash and we went for a long meandering walk while I tried to clear my head. That became a nightly routine for us, and it became part of the day I look forward to the most. Just the 2 of us out in the moonlight, letting Wiley decide which route he wanted to take. We kept on walking until my daughter was born in April of 23, and I couldn't wait until I was ready to get back on our nightly walks. As our family had grown, Wiley has always held his spot as the original baby. I often ask my son how many sweeties I have, and he counts out 3, him, his sister, and Wiley. I correct him only in my head that Wiley was the first sweetie. Almost 2 years ago, we moved across the country and have been able to let Wiley experience the countryside at my in-laws' home, where he has barked at cows and chased groundhogs to his heart's content. On the night of July 9th, after we put our kids to bed, we came downstairs to feed Wiley and take him for his nightly walk. My husband stopped me to say that Wiley acted a little strange and stumbled on his way to his bowl. I stood over him as he ate his dinner. He leaned on the dryer, and when he was finished, he didn't seem to know what to do or where to go. As he left the laundry room, he stumbled again, and I knew something was very off. I brought him immediately to the emergency vet. He was able to jump out of our car and walk into the building and back with the vet tech, but that is the last time he was able to walk. Shortly after we arrived, he had a seizure that they were able to stop quickly with medication. They ran blood work, which they said came back perfect, along with perfect vital signs. They suspected something neurological, and it recommended an MRI the following day, though their MRI equipment was being updated, so we would need to transfer elsewhere. I went back to see him before I went home, and he was snoring loudly. I gave him pets and told him I loved him and would see him in the morning. He was on seizure watch at the hospital through the night and did not have another one. I imagined taking him for imaging the next day and being able to bring him home soon. When the vet called the next morning for an update, I naively expected good news. But she said that Wiley was significantly worse than he had been the previous night and was hardly able to stand, even with 90% of his body weight supported. They were able to initiate a transfer to another hospital with a wide range of capabilities. I rushed to pick Wiley up so I could get him to the next facility. He was so weak. They had to roll him out on a gurney. Either the sunlight or a bump on the sidewalk made him lift his head and look around, and I remember hoping that he saw my face first and knew I was there with him. They gave me seizure meds in case he had another episode during the drive, but thankfully he didn't. He hardly moved at all, which was terrifying in its own way. I talked and sang to him during the 40-minute drive and let him know Mommy was with him. When we arrived, they took him in on a gurney, and he raised his head and looked around again as they transferred him from the car. Again, I was right there hoping he saw my face. After his exam, the vet shared their concern that he had a frontal lobe tumor, but would need an MRI to confirm it. Given his state, she said he was not the best candidate for general anesthesia, but it was the only way that they could know what was going on and what to do next. I called my husband to update him, and I quickly approved the treatment plan. They wanted to do a chest and abdominal x-rays to see if there were any visible tumors. I was able to go back and spend time with him as they prepared for the x-rays. He was sleeping, and I laid down next to him for about 20 minutes, stroking his face and ears and body and telling him how much he was loved. I've laid with him like that so many times in his life, and I was thankful to be there watching the rise and fall of his breath, smelling him, and feeling his soft, beautiful fur. His x-rays came back clear, and he went in for his MRI shortly after that. When the neurologist called with the MRI results, we were cautiously optimistic. He said he believed Wiley had a hemorrhagic stroke and had a brain bleed, which he believed could be controlled and treated. I felt my spirits lift. Usually they don't allow visitors in the first 24 hours after an MRI, but the neurologist arranged for my husband to be able to visit at around 5 p.m. Wiley came out of the anesthesia really well and was awake, alert, and sitting up when my husband got there, but he was still pretty out of it. My husband told him how much we loved him. The neurologist shared his treatment plan and said he would call us with an update around 8 the next morning. I was hopeful that I'd be able to visit him the next day. After midnight, we were sleeping. My phone rang, and the emergency vet on duty said Wiley's heart rate had suddenly gone above 300 BPM, and he had stopped breathing. They had been administering CPR for 5 minutes. He asked if we wanted them to continue for 10 more minutes, and I said yes. He called back after 10 minutes and said they were not able to resuscitate him. I got up immediately and drove to the hospital to spend time with Wiley while my husband stayed home with our sleeping kids. Wiley was still warm when I got there, and I was able to lay on a bed on the floor with him for about an hour and a half, holding him and telling him how much I loved him. I drove home and got into bed with my husband, and we held each other and cried and cried and cried. We went back together later in the morning and were together for the last time, the three of us, as it had been in the beginning. It is incredibly painful that we were not with Wiley when he died, but our only solace is that he was comfortably resting that evening and was sleeping when it happened. The vet said it happened so quickly that Wiley did not feel any pain. 2 days after he died, I woke up in a bit of panic, thinking through the day he got sick. I remember letting him into the backyard to go potty in the afternoon. I got distracted with chores in the house, and he was out there longer than I intended, though I didn't believe it was too terribly long. It had been a hot day, so I started You wonder if he could have experienced heat-related illness with delayed onset of symptoms. I've agonized about this repeatedly over the past few weeks. I've spoken with his neurologist and emergency vet and consulted with a dear friend from high school who was an emergency vet in Arizona and is very familiar with heat-related illness. They all have assured me that there was nothing in his presentation and lab work that indicated that he suffered from a heat stroke. But I still wonder if everything would have been different if I just walked out and back in with him that day. My dad died from cancer when I was 35. We had 5.5 years between his diagnosis in 2015 and death in 2020. It was the most catastrophic loss I had experienced. And yet here I am in so much pain, with so much longing for my sweet Wiley. The losses are different, and this one hit me in such a tender way. We thought we had so much more time. He was so healthy his whole life. The neurologist believes it may have been a congenital condition that only now expressed itself. Ultimately, we will never know. We know our lives and our family will never be the same. My heart radiates with love for him. Thank you for letting me share more about him, and please feel free to share all or part of this email. Thank you so much for the work you do and the comfort you provide to so many of us in pain. My best. So, I mean, sometimes, we've had this a lot, that all of a sudden a beautiful companion gets sick. Healthy, gets sick. And then it could be a very short period of time before they die.
Yeah, he was 7.5, so he was not old and had been well. And but sometimes there are congenital problems that just arise, and they did absolutely everything imaginable to try to see if they could bring him back to health. And it sounds like there was never really a lot of clarity about what was going on.
No.
And very, very sad, but they gave him a wonderful life.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I mean, he was the first sweetie, right?
He was the first baby, that's for sure.
He was the first sweetie.
And very much loved.
Oh my goodness, yes.
And it's something that their children, at least their older child, got to know him a little bit.
Yeah.
And may not remember all that much, but it will stay with him in a tactile kind of way, that he had a dog who he touched and was very connected to, I think. And this is one of the best pictures I've seen in a while, this one here with the two of them on the dog bed.
Oh, so cute. I love that. Oh my goodness, I love that.
That's just great. And but
Mom and Dad will always remember, and they'll
always
let
remember
their babies,
him.
Your human babies know.
Yeah, and
how wonderful the Wiley was.
He had a wonderful life, and here we have Hanneke, of course, racking her brain to find a way to try to make herself feel guilty. I mean, I have to. I laugh at that because so many of us do it. It's just
we all do it.
Yeah. We look for, okay, what did I do to make this happen? And we'll fixate on something, and then we'll do some research on it, and we'll talk to people who know, and they're like, no, I don't think that had anything to do with it. And we're like, I don't know about that. We just it's so hard to not, and I often feel like one of the reasons, and it doesn't make it any easier, but my hypothesis is that it's so hard to acknowledge the lack of control that we have.
No, we don't
that
have a lot.
we find some way to feel like we must have done something wrong, because at least it restores some sense of our own agency in caring for and taking care of our friend, when in reality there's so many variables that are so wildly apart from our ability to influence. And I think sometimes that's, we'd rather feel guilty than feel so frightened of the fact that there's just so much that is beyond our ability to change.
Right, exactly.
And so, but
also, though, I want to, I understand not being there, right?
Oh, so do I. So do I, yeah.
Because you had Jack, right? Didn't Jack
died while we
when you
were
were away?
while we were in Barcelona.
Yeah.
And
My Tashi, my
One of-
first one died without us, and
Yeah.
you know that it just stays with you.
Oh yeah. Well, we woke
know.
up one morning and Lily had died during the night.
Oh yes,
And,
that's right.
Fate has other plans than
Yeah.
ours very often. And so, again, it's another example of the ways that there's just so much about life that's unpredictable. That's just
Yeah.
not ours to manage. And so we want to thank
Thank her.
Hanneke.
And I love what she said. My heart radiates love. I love that. That is such a great,
Yeah.
phrase. I'm
Yep.
going to use that, Hanneke,
Yeah.
if I could.
Yep. That's great. That's beautiful. So now from Melissa,
Right.
she writes, "Hi, Ken and Nancy. I found your podcast shortly after my Yorkie Peanut suddenly passed away June 13th. Let me show a picture of Peanut.
Peanut is so cute. They're
We
so
have
cute.
lots of Peanut pictures.
Yeah. Oh,
There's
Peanut.
Peanut. There is Melissa and Peanut. And here's Peanut during the winter. Here's Peanut being snuggled with by Melissa.
At the beach, maybe,
Yeah,
or something.
yeah. I found it very comforting in the early days of grief, especially since the first episode I randomly selected featured another dog
Named
by the
Peanut.
name of Peanut. I'm not sure if possible, but would be honored if you share my letter to my own little Peanut. I've attached some photos below as well. My dearest Peanut, I feel like I never truly got to say goodbye. The last time I saw you in the emergency room, I gently stroked your cheek and spoke softly, hoping you heard me, saw me, or caught my familiar scent. I was so worried, not realizing it would be our final moment together. Losing you has left me broken and lost. You were my little shadow, the sweetest boy, and I deeply miss your face, scent, voice, and calming presence every moment of every day. I hope you always knew how profoundly you were loved and how much joy and comfort you brought into our lives. I still vividly remember the day I adopted you, a sleepy, sweet 1-year-old puppy who immediately nestled your head into my shoulder. At that moment, I knew you were meant to be mine. For 13 beautiful years, we were inseparable. There was nowhere I wanted to be without you. You went with us everywhere we could take you, the beach, hikes, the snow, and the desert. Now that you're gone, my heart aches with loss, and I feel so lost. Even now, I carry deep guilt, wondering if there was more I could have done to keep you safe and with us. I constantly replay scenarios, being stricter about your activity and using the stairs, asking more questions at the vet, or seeking second opinions and additional tests. It pains me deeply to think I might have failed you, and I'd give anything to have you back. In reality, I do know that I did everything I possibly could. The emergency room doctor stated that it's just the terrible nature of both heart disease and collapsing trachea. The house feels unbearably quiet now, filled with a painful emptiness. The day you passed was among the worst days of my life. I had never experienced such profound agony. I still can't bear to move your belongings or frame your paw prints, or accepting your absence seems impossible. In the days after your passing, a monarch butterfly appeared. And where is that image?
Oh, interesting.
Where is it? Not there, not there. It's a little hard to see because they're very small. Anyway, somehow I don't have it here, but I'll put it on the Substack.
Okay.
She took a picture of the monarch butterfly.
Appeared, yeah.
Appeared behind a video frame I'd purchased in your memory. Before you left us, I had only seen a monarch here once, circling around you months earlier. Since then, they visited daily, often multiple times a day. Though I've never been particularly spiritual, these butterflies feel like gentle reminders or simple hellos from you, comforting signs that you're still near. Though we had 13 wonderful years, I still feel robbed of time with you. You were my miracle puppy, eternally vibrant and youthful, and I never imagined losing you so suddenly. I was completely unprepared for the depth and suddenness of your loss. Your absence leaves me breathless and uncertain about how to move forward. I deeply miss our your companionship, your comforting presence beside me, your kisses, your warmth resting on my chest, and our peaceful moments lying together in the sun. I love you endlessly, Peanut, and I will carry you forever in my heart. Melissa, a.k.a. Peanut's mom.
You know, how
So-
she defines her grief or what will miss or what she is missing and how important Peanut was to her is so profound. I mean, it's so emotional, you know, and how she explains it all about how important Peanut was in her life.
And there again, she's
Guilt.
racking her brain to try
Guilt. The
what
guilt.
she did wrong. And it sounds like she's accepting what the veterinarians told her, which is you did everything you possibly could. And it's so hard we're so focused on doing everything possible to protect them, and we can't protect them from the basics of life and death.
No, if they have, I mean, unfortunately, our animals do not live as long as we do, and they get elderly, and they do have, you know, diseases that we can treat, but we can't really control. And then we can't control how they die.
Yeah. It's very difficult. Very
It's
difficult.
very challenging. It's very sad. But, I mean, Melissa, this was a wonderful letter, you know,
Yep.
to your Peanut. And I know how it's very difficult, especially when they die so quickly. Even if it's not immediate, can be, but within even a very short period of time, because I've worked with people right at the vet, and if they were fine 2 days ago,
Yep.
they were fine.
Yeah.
And then now they
Shocking.
have to be euthanized.
It's just
You know,
shocking.
yeah, people have obviously a really hard time because that's not what's expected.
It's not what is expected. And even
No.
and this is a kind of, I had my 4 little Chihuahuas, and they all had collapsing tracheas to a certain
Yeah,
extent.
little dogs get those.
They get that, and at least 2 of them definitely had congestive heart failure. But we treated it for quite a while, and you get to this sense of, it's just sort of chronic.
Yeah.
And then, I remember asking the vet, how will this end?
Yeah, right.
And she said, it depends. Sometimes it's a catastrophic collapse, and sometimes it's more slow, and you can kind of see it happening. And both of my dogs who died, one of them probably from congestive heart failure, it just happened as an absolute, like, doing pretty well, and then like right into dying very rapidly the next day. And so we want to thank Melissa and
Melissa.
Hanneke for sharing
so
their
much.
stories. And we wish you solace and
peace.
in
And
the
I
days
think
ahead.
both of you will be working through this because it sounds like, this was helpful for you to write out. In fact, we got some other, we'll have to, on another episode, Hanneke has got back to us a few times about her journey.
Her process.
And so, I mean, it will take a period of time. It's not an event. It's a process.
Yeah, and it's not linear either. It's
up and
messy.
down
It's up and
all the
down and all over the
time.
place and unpredictable. And so you have to try to be gentle with yourself and not judgmental. And so we thank you very much,
Yes,
and we
thank
thank you for being with us, whether you're with us live or through one of the rebroadcasts. And also just a reminder, if you haven't subscribed, it would be helpful if you subscribe or leave a comment, leave a thumbs up. All of that's helpful. And Nancy, I'll see you again
As always.
next week.
All right, Ken.
All right, take care.
Take care, everyone.